It's been a week for us all, correct? I know for me, when I need time and space to process a traumatic event. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is ground your feet, take a deep breath, connect with yourself, be real present. And I'm just going to kind of give you my thoughts and musings that came out of an introspective time yesterday. And this is something that popped up in my mind that started the whole thought process about the storming of the Capitol on Wednesday. So there's a Cherokee parable where a Cherokee chief was talking to his grandson about two wolves. And he said, "There's a fight going on inside of me. There are two wolves." He said, "It's a terrible fight. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, self doubt, and ego. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." This same fight is going on inside you and every other person too. The grandson thought for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" The old chief simply replied, "The one you feed." So I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling hurt, frustrated, sad, and disappointed, among other strong emotions that I have not been able to identify yet. And again, this just happened Wednesday, and grief and trauma are not linear. They manifest themselves differently in everybody. So it's probably going to be quite some time for me to process this. So, why am I sharing that with you? I'm sharing these thoughts with you, not to egoically impose my beliefs or anything on you, but to give you the best information to make a decision for yourself. And I'll tell you something before I get into it deeper that I tell my clients. If you're looking for a yes woman, I'm not the one you want to hire. I will always tell you the truth from my perspective, even if it's tough to hear, because I think as leaders, accountability and feedback are two key components. So let me go back. So, feeling all these strong feelings, and it was really my initial intent to come on LinkedIn Live today and angrily rant about Wednesday's events at the Capitol building in DC. In fact, I had prepared a good old take them to the woodshed moment, condemning the horrific acts of sedition, treason, and an insurrection by domestic terrorists. But as I was standing in the proverbial eye of the figurative storm, thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations swirling around me, the following quote, one of my favorite quotes, popped into my mind. And it's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King that says, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." So basically, the way I interpret that is you can't match angry energy with angry energy and expect it to diffuse. It's just going to explode like it did on Wednesday. So instead of jumping on the anger train today, hijacked by my ego, I decided to slow down, breathe, calm down, and reflect. Now, I always begin processing traumatic events like this by reflecting internally, which is a tool that I learned because I, overcame PTSD from two sexual assaults in college. So I have those tools, but I also have acquired a trauma informed therapy certificate at the beginning of the pandemic to help me move people through this as well. So, like I said, I always begin processing traumatic events by reflecting internally and asking myself, where is my responsibility in these situations, even if I'm not directly involved, because we're all connected. Everybody on this planet is interconnected. Don't believe me? All I have to say to you is COVID-19. Okay. We're all interconnected, all of us, and we're all wired to belong. That's our primal need, to belong to each other. So in the process of starting to heal from traumatic events, my first instinct is to go internal and ask where my responsibility is. And I want to say that from that space of introspection, sitting in the stillness and really following the thoughts and questions that are appearing in my mind, but also giving myself the space to really feel those feelings. Because the number one thing that I have had discovered in my work over the past 22 years as an executive coach and working with some of the greatest leaders in the world, is that the number one thing people are most afraid of is feeling their feelings. Okay. It's a scary thing, right? That's why we have all of these addictive coping mechanisms and, all kinds of things that we use to distract ourselves from the pain. And I want to say that the following musings, meditations, awarenesses are in no way meant to condone, justify, or defend the actions of the domestic terrorists. This is me giving you a peek into my own process and walking you through the process of healing, the process that I follow to heal myself from trauma. And hopefully some of it resonates with you and it'll help you. So that's the whole intention, is just to help you and to maybe bring a different light on what's going on. So first, I want to say my deepest condolences to the families and loved ones of the 5 people who lost their lives unnecessarily on Wednesday. And then basically here are just kind of thoughts and questions I've been ruminating on since yesterday's moment of reflection. And if you have not taken the time to reflect and get introspective on what you experienced, please make space for that for yourself, just so you can feel it. Because start to finish, an emotional cycle is 90 seconds. So if you can sit with your feelings for 90 seconds and not interrupt them, you're on your way to healing. So here are the questions that are popping in my mind. First of all, how has my white silence contributed to Wednesday's events? How? Was there anything in my life, in my work, in my business that I was complicit in? How have I benefited from, breathed life into, and propped up the white supremacy culture, which is the same culture that Wednesday's storming of the Capitol was birthed from? Where did I benefit from it? Where did I perpetuate it? Okay. Whose voices am I listening to and learning from? What trauma inside of me have I neglected to heal within myself? And how can I contribute, serve, and support best right now? So from that space, I started thinking, like, how can I be a better human? Then what came from that was, what's really happening at the storming of the Capitol? What is it? Like, what are the underlying beliefs, behaviors, and conditioning that were driving the actions of this angry group of domestic terrorists? What was it? And then why was nobody surprised? I mean, I keep hearing rhetoric across the board, even including for myself. Like, the first thing was that I thought was, oh my God, I'm shocked. I'm disappointed. I'm dismayed. I'm angry, but I'm not surprised. Why wasn't I surprised? Why wasn't everybody else surprised? Like, this should be a shock, right? This should be something that never occurs on our soil, right? Okay, what is that belief that it should never occur here? What is that masking? Is that making me ignore the white supremacy, the white privilege, the white silence that I've been conditioned in? Okay, now we can't fix what we don't see. So we have to look at this. We have to, because we're not going to get better. We're not going to move forward if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Okay. So who was in charge? Who was in charge of this, the organization of it? Why were those terrorists walking in so boldly, brazenly, and entitled? My house, my government, my. That's very ego-driven language. Okay. Why is the accountability so focused on the domestic terrorists on the ground? Okay. So I know we're throwing around impeachment. I know we've been throwing around the 25th Amendment, but the first thing that I would do is hold the leaders accountable. Hold the leaders accountable, and why is the accountability, sorry, the other part of it is what role did verbiage play in this whole thing? So if I teach my clients words create our reality, which is why you'll see me reading off the script, because I want to be so intentional with what I'm saying here. Okay. Because words have meaning and words create our reality. You can see that how that happened on Wednesday. So let's look at the incendiary verbiage that led up to and stoked the fires and put their fingers in the wounds of these broken, wounded, hurting people. I am not saying that what they did is right. And I'm not saying because they're victims. That's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand what the beliefs were. What were they locked into? What was their reality that they were seeing that drove this forward? Okay. So let's look at these words that literally played on the emotions of these people that were disenfranchised or they felt like were ignored by the government. That's why he got elected in 2016, because all of a sudden he started speaking to this ignored population, right? So let's look at the words. Let's walk down to the Capitol together. Let's use the only way this is going to be determined is be trial by combat. If you're going to be the zero and not the hero, we're coming for you and we'll have a good time doing it. It gave them the green light. It fed, fueled, fomented disinformation and based on lies and attacks on our democracy. Let's take it a step forward. Save America. Did America really need saving? No. No. Is it a perfect country? Absolutely not. There are so many things that I see the potential in this country that we're falling well short on. Stop the steal. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was stolen. And to have it stolen, it has to be yours in the first place. It wasn't yours. The steal rally. Nope. Wasn't stolen. Make America great, which infers that our country was a piece of garbage, at least in my mind. You know what I mean? And I'm one of those people that likes to look for the light in situations, but I am also a realist. Okay. So the other thing that's at play here is accountability. I've talked to you about that already. So the single most ignored responsibility of leaders, according to a 2010 Harvard Business Review study, is holding people accountable. Let me say that again. The single most ignored responsibility of leaders is holding people accountable. So our current president's war on accountability started when he would not turn over his tax returns. Okay. And it's almost like, if you give them an inch, they take a mile. So he was like, oh, I don't have to turn my tax returns. Okay, well, I don't have to do that. Well, I don't have to do that. Well, it led to this, led to Wednesday's events. Okay. And why wasn't he put in check immediately for not giving over his tax returns? Why wasn't he held accountable? Why? Again, questions that are unanswered. These are rhetorical. I don't know the answers to them. It's just what's popping in my mind. And let's not forget the inaction and action by some political figures. And notice the hypocrisy in what's happened. People are distancing themselves. I mean, I even distanced myself. I was like, I'm not one of those white people. Well, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Am I marching around with a Confederate flag or, anti-Semitic rhetoric? No, I am absolutely not. But I have benefited from these systems of oppression. That's what I mean, but I'm just like them. Okay. So let's not forget the action by some political figures in aiding and abetting the attempted insurrection. And I'm going to name you because I think all of you, all 12 of you, need to be expelled from your political positions. Okay, here you go. Included and not limited to. These people need to be held accountable. And by the way, there's constitutional precedents from 1861 to have political representatives and senators expelled from their positions. Because I think what's happened is our politicians think they're in charge. They're not. We are. The Constitution starts we the people. Okay. They work for us. And I think that line has been blurred. Okay. So here's who are the 12 senators that all of a sudden said they didn't want this violence, but they were the ones inciting it and stoking it prior. So I'm calling you out. Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Ron Johnson, James Langford, Steve Daines, John Kennedy, Marsha Blackburn, Mike Braun, Cynthia Loomis, Roger Marshall, Bill Haggerty, and Tommy Tuberville. Will you face consequences? I hope so. I hope so. And by the way, people keep saying this is not our country. This is our country. This is. Okay. And you can't fix it if you don't look at it. Look at it. I want you to look at it with clear eyes. This is not about politics. This is about the desecration of our humanity and people taking away our humanity. All right. So what mental health issues were at play here? What, and again, I'm not giving these people a pass. I'm trying to understand, because if you look at mass shootings, you look at bombings, who's the culprit of most of these? Heterosexual white men. Heterosexual white men. Okay. Why wasn't there a clear sense of moral outrage among the people on the ground? And again, I could be wrong. I wasn't there. I don't know. These are just musings. But where was the moral outrage? Where was it? And how does generational trauma committed by the families and ancestors of these individuals, these terrorists on the ground, how did that inform their behavior? And why didn't, and again, my husband's former military, and we were discussing this, and he said you need at least 2 days for things to come out. Okay, which I understand. There's a lot of things at play. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but we have a great military. We have a great we used to have a great intelligence community, and I think the police have the potential to be amazing. I really do. I just think there's some tweaks that need to happen in training development and what they should and shouldn't respond to. But why didn't the police, military, intelligence community, and the other security organizations involved treat this with the seriousness that they treat environmental movements or Black Lives Matter? I mean, I'm wondering if they contained that, if they had done that, if they had treated it with that kind of seriousness, and they knew ahead of time, trust me on that, they knew, if they had contained it, and if they had treated it with that kind of seriousness, maybe the terrorists could have been more quickly and easily contained. I don't know. Again, there's some Monday morning quarterbacking going on here. But again, this is what I'm thinking, right? I'm trying to figure out how to move myself through this trauma. Did the disinformation and doubt that was created from this give power to a very small number of people that had a disproportionate influence? And then in summary, let's look at all these components at play. We've got a disenfranchised population, okay, that believes they belong to this loving community and this beloved leader who tells them that they're special, which, by the way, is a main component of white supremacist culture. Oh, you're not like all of them. You're special. Well, guess what? On a biological level, you're not. We're all the same. You look at the DNA mapping in the Genome Project, we are all the same. Nobody's special. But it's that belief of individualism and you're better than blah, blah, blah. Insert your whoever you're better than, is a key component to white supremacist conditioning. And then there's, add on top of that. So we've got a disenfranchised population that believe they're now part of something and that they belong. And think about it. It's very similar to extremists, like religious and political extremists in other countries. That's how they get people. That's how gangs get people. They look for broken, wounded individuals that feel like they're alienated, and they bring them into the fold. Okay. Um, then we've got the scarcity mentality. Then we've got the sense of belonging that tapped into their deepest fears, which makes them feel like a false sense of love, that they're special, that there's not enough to go around, that they're stealing from us. If they take it from me, I can't have it. That's an illusion. That's an ego illusion. That's an ego story. Then we've got entitlement. So, entitlement, let's look at the caste system in the United States. The caste system in the United States puts white, heterosexual Christian men at the top of the pyramid as oppressors. Underneath them at the next level is white women. So, if those white women felt entitled to a seat in the president's office and it was stolen by Vice President Kamala Harris, who happens to be a African American, South Asian American woman. Now, this is a belief of these white women that she stole it or she jumped the line over them. Again, stokes the fire. Sense of entitlement, part of the white supremacist conditioning. They're hijacked in their egos. I'm right, you're wrong. Then there's the toxic masculinity at play, which is screw your feelings, no BS, F the liberals, crying liberals. Again, they see it as emotions, emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, and energy management as a weakness. Another part of it. Internally wounded people projecting their unresolved generational trauma on others through violent means. So instead of taking responsibility and accountability and calling yourself a white supremacist, which I did earlier in this broadcast, that's not comfortable for me to say, but it's true. It's true. I'm part of that culture. I've got to take my responsibility and my ownership. Okay. And there's nobody's job to do that but mine. Nobody's job to heal me but me. So then you've got a clear division in our country that was illuminated and on display for all to see. Then you've got the groupthink and mob mentality feeding into this, and the hypocrisy, and then add the firehose of disinformation, which is a Russian spy tactic meant to disorient and confuse. So you've got all of those things in summary at play at the perfect storm. Those are the underlying beliefs driving everybody forward. Okay. So how do we move past this? How is it possible to move past this? Ask yourself, which wolf are you feeding? Thank you so much. Make it a great day. If you disagree with me, I want to hear from you. If I missed something, I want to hear from you. I'm not somebody who's in an echo chamber or afraid of feedback. Hit me with it. I'm ready. And thank you so much. And I'm wrapping you all in the white light of healing love, because there's a lot of healing that needs to go on. Pay attention to that and take care of yourselves. Love yourself enough so you can love others.